Welcome. My name is Don Jensen, and I'm the newly appointed chair of Washington Filmworks, the Film Incentives Commission. Thank you. Also, the recently departed owner of Alpha Cine. But I'm glad to welcome you guys here tonight, and it's a great turnout. We have a couple of other members of the board of Washington Filmworks here, Abby Dillon and Donna James, who some of you may know. Amy's going to do an excellent job of telling you about what's happened with incentives in film production in the state during the past year. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Hi. Gosh, it is so bright and I can not see anyone. But welcome. My name is Amy Lillard. I'm the executive director of Washington Filmworks. I'm happy to report that someone in the bar said, what's going on back there and why should I go? And I said, I'm wearing a sparkly red top. And for everyone in this room that knows me, that is a very rare occasion. So, but welcome. This happens to be the 7th year that we have done the annual industry update. I had a slightly surreal moment, and this is somewhat personal, but the first year that we did this update, I was 5 months pregnant. And as I prepared for this particular presentation last night, as my 6-year-old was playing in the living room, I thought not only how much has he grown, but how much Filmworks has grown and how much our community has grown. And just going in, and so many in this room know me personally and know that I feel so deeply passionate about what we do and how we work for you. It's just been a total pleasure to be the executive director of Filmworks, and I appreciate that. So thank you for that. So. Speaking of honor and privilege, I have the honor and privilege every day of working with a team of women and one man who they're delightful and talented and passionate, and I need to introduce them. So starting with Julie. Julie is our Director of Operations and Finance. Jesse Wilson does all of our communications and programs. Chris Carnes, right there in the back. She is our production services coordinator and knows more about how to film and where to film and how to help you than anyone I know. So that's Chris Carnes. Chris Walters. Chris Walters is being quite bashful sitting down, but Chris Walters basically runs us all. She is my right hand and literally she does all of our systems management, and she's invaluable to us, so thank you. And our one single man, where is Ken? Stands out proud, so. Ken works with Julie in the accounting department. Yep. And again, I'm always the public person, but it is such a joy and such a pleasure to work with these people on a day-to-day basis. So please, just one more round of applause for them. So we do this every year, and every year it is a reflection on what we've accomplished as a community and where we really want to go moving forward. I hate having the mic and the thing, but I'm going to try and work on it. So we're going to get started. Go ahead and hit that first slide. So as everyone knows, our core business is how do we, using the incentive program, bring more feature films, more commercials, and more TV stuff here. That's what we do on a day-to-day basis. It's our core mission. We're never going to abandon it. And what we use as our definition of success is how do we measure the jobs and dollars associated with that? Because as you know, everything that we do generates a ton of money and a ton of jobs. So I've always started this presentation with a review of the numbers. So since launching the program in February of 2007, we've had 92 projects come through the standard program. So that doesn't include any of the Innovation Lab projects that we've done over the last year. And we've had $242 million of economic impact. That is almost a $250 million of economic impact. Thank you. So that represents to the state of Washington. So if you think of what they put out through the incentive program from what they get back, that is a 520% return on the investment that the state makes. Pretty good return on investment. And at the end of the day, what we care about is you and how we keep you working. And those projects, those 92 projects, have created over 6,000 jobs for Washington cast and crew. So more happens to be our favorite word at Washington Filmworks right now. We are certainly thrilled to have the 3.5. Many of you know we had that dramatic turn where we had no incentive, and now we have an incentive. So we're very happy about that 3.5. The reality of the situation is that Oregon has more. Oregon has $10 million. They just upped their incentive. More states have incentive programs. There's more competition for the work that we do. And so this year, as we started the year and we worked with the board, we asked the question, what more can we do with what we have? How do we bring more business? How do we empower filmmakers in a more meaningful way? And how do we think more globally? And so as we thought about this last year at this time, we started a bunch of programs to think that way. So we're going to talk a little bit about the successes that we've had this year. Where's Steve and Scott? Steve and Scott. So this year, we launched a program called the Filmworks Innovation Lab. Oh, and Lacey. Am I missing anyone else in the room that is a Filmworks Innovation Lab funding recipient? So this year, we launched a program called the Filmworks Innovation Lab. And what we heard consistently throughout the last 6 years is, how do we help the local filmmakers get some capital to get some projects done to get it up on the big screen, right? So we thought strategically, we think that this community, the filmmakers and the storytellers in this room, are really our creative capital. If we're looking at the long-term sustainability of our community, it is the people in this room. So we wanted to, at Washington Filmworks, listen to that and say, how do we invest in a meaningful way and give our local filmmakers more? So we launched the Innovation Lab. The Innovation Lab is about helping filmmakers get that project onto the screen that they might not have done otherwise. So there's no minimum in-state spending, well, there's barely an in-state spending threshold. It is, how do we help you get that thing done? And so we launched that this year. We funded 10 projects, and we spent $350,000 investing in it. So Scott and Steve, sorry, it's so hard to see. I'm sorry, I'm used to being so interactive. Just finished principal photography on the Maury Island project, which is done and complete. Lacey Levitt was in our second cycle of funding with a fantastic, I'm not even going to talk about it because it's not really my place to, but with a fantastic new project, which is a nice segue into what I'm about to talk about, because the Innovation Lab is about what you're doing now, and, go ahead and hit the next one, it's about how do we get us collectively to think differently. We are all making content now. And so when we think about content and when we think about this one piece of motion picture production, it is about, what do you do with that piece? What is the business model? How do you make a living doing that? And so in the second cycle of the lab, where we funded 5 projects, it was about, here's your piece of content and here's your story, but where does that story live? And we want you to think this way so that we, as a film office, and as a people who are invested in your future, how do we build bridges so that you can create a business model that is sustainable? So to give you a little hint at what we accomplished, one of the projects that we funded was called Rocket Men. Who knows Rocket Men? Yeah. King 5 News did a little vignette on it, which we love and we think is in line with the spirit of it all. And we're going to show you that now.
Look to the skies above Seattle, and you might see men in jetpacks keeping watch over the Emerald City. They are Rocket Men, coming soon to a screen near you. King 5's Eric Wilkinson with Washington's new future of financing films and how it's blasting off.
Check on the meters.
Say hello to Rocket Man 69, a fearless member of Seattle's Department of Municipal Rocketry.
Nothing to see here. Official business.
Rocket Man 13. The Rocket Men are a ragtag bunch of rooftop rent-a-cops keeping Seattle safe from evil.
But so far we haven't had to do much more than rescue cats from trees and help people get their kites off of roofs.
At one, set, action!
In reality, Rocket Men is a web series shot atop buildings all along the city skyline.
What's going on up there?
And while the locations are eye-catching, it's the way this production's funded that's really attracting attention.
It's a unique opportunity that we don't often get as actors.
This shot should be mostly about...
The bulk of the budget, some $30,000, was raised from a Kickstarter campaign where strangers essentially invest in projects they believe in.
When someone who lives in New Zealand donates $25 to your campaign, just because they think what you're doing is great and they want to see it come to fruition.
Next, a recently revived state incentive program reimburses 29% of production costs.
There we go. Oh, don't look down. Don't, Benny, don't look down.
Money that could keep this 40-member cast and crew perched on our parapets for a second season, allowing local movie makers to pursue their passion in the place they live and love.
You know, we don't have to wait for the next big Hollywood movie to roll through from somewhere else. We can actually get the work that's generated here.
Rocket Men never would have taken off if not for this partnership of private donations and public subsidies, a brave new world of funding, providing possibilities for those climbing the ladder to stardom.
Gotta have some faith.
Eric Wilkinson, King 5 News.
So we've gotten a ton of questions at Filmworks about what is the future of this program. And, you know, we are working with the first 10 filmmakers that came through that program. The intention is to bring that program back next year. I would look for it somewhere around first quarter, second quarter of next year. But what we learned is that you believe in it, we believe in it, and we're learning, just like we did when we launched the incentive, we're learning how to make it better and work better for you and for us. So we're super proud of it, and you know, next year this time we'll show you more projects that were shot. So another part of our business is really growing the creative industry. And you know, if you look at our mission, like, I love stealing Hollywood's money because you hear me talk about this a lot. But really what drives us on a day-to-day basis is like, how do we get you to stay here and make a living making film? And so a lot of what we do and a lot of the ways that we think of things is through that lens. And so we launched a couple of programs this year around, who knows Commercialized Seattle? Super fun. So commercials in many ways fund all of the other things that you love to do. It's great money. You love working on them. And we use that as a tool to do all the other things that you love to do. And so we learned from you that you want us to bring more commercials. And so we listened to that. And so in partnership with the City of Seattle, we launched Commercialized Seattle. It is a business development campaign designed to bring more commercial work to the city and to the region. Has a two-part campaign. One is a marketing campaign to bring people from out of state and new business. And the second part is a super smart strategic way to use some of the incentive dollars differently. And so part of what I love is, you know, we are a statewide agency. The first two projects that came through this campaign didn't shoot in Seattle. They shot in other places. But it's a success because this campaign is getting a ton of national recognition. And so as we think about, how do we bring more? In commercials, incentives are a tool. It is not the only decision-making process that they use to figure out where they go. All of our resources, Chris Carnes and myself and all of our sales stuff, is directed towards how do we bring more business here? Because we know that that is a tool that you use to get some money in your pocket to do all those things that you love to do. And so our definition of success as an organization, when we look at this campaign, is twofold. One, we want to bring new business here. Who's not working or thinking of the state of Washington right now? I kind of liken it to, when I started this job a very long time ago, I don't think that there is an independent film being made under $5 million that we're not at least getting called about. And that is because of all the hard work that this community has done, right? So if you're making a movie under 5, we're at least getting called. We have a crew and a reputation for that and an incentive program designed to support that business. And so we are taking the same approach with Commercialize Seattle. In 5 years, we want nobody else to think about shooting a commercial elsewhere except in Seattle and in Washington. So we're taking the same approach. So that's one definition of success. We want more commercials to think about coming here. 2 is we have watched the production companies locally here in Seattle just blow up, doing incredibly creative entrepreneurial work that isn't happening elsewhere in the country. And so how do we get national brands and national agencies to look at our local production companies and say, yes, I want to work there? So as we move Commercialize Seattle forward, those are the 2 things that we're thinking about. So that's one thing that we did. Ooh. So as part of that campaign, we have this super smart marketing campaign that was done by Creature up on Capitol Hill, a creative agency that is aimed at industry insiders and speaking in the speak that they do. And so we were covered locally. I apologize in advance for my hair in what's about to happen. But here's a little taste of what the marketing campaign looks like.
Seattle's ready for its starring role on a smaller level. That's the message from the film industry, which is getting ready to roll out the red carpet to cameras and more. Come before us, Lindsay Cohen is live in Seattle with details on this Bright Lights Big City crusade. Lindsay?
Yeah, Mary, envision your logo here on the city's skyline. That's the concept behind a new campaign launching next week. The idea is to bring lights, camera, action, and dollars.
I want to meet you. Everyone knows the movie.
Where is Seattle?
That puts Seattle on the map. Tonight, this woman wants to bring big screen attention to the small screen.
We can make a commercial from start to finish here and in a world-class way.
Amy Lillard is about to put the word out to the entire world, and maybe in a not-so-conventional way.
It's irreverent and fun.
Some of the pitches are funny, like, we bend over, so your idea doesn't have to. But this idea has potential to make millions for the local economy.
When you really look at the impact of filming on an area, when a project is there, whether that's a commercial, whether that's a feature film, the impact is undeniable.
Next week, public and private agencies will get together to launch what's called Commercialize Seattle. The idea is to take the attention Seattle's gotten in films and on television and translate that to ads you see on TV and the internet.
We are one of the few places in the world where you can be in the mountains in the morning and the beaches in the afternoon.
That's one part of the pitch. Other parts include tax incentives, discounted permits, even free parking. A lot of it is done with a heavy dose of humor, like with this flyer that reads, "When we sell out, so does your product."
Not bad.
The hope is to be successful.
Yeah, is it cute?
Not sleepless in Seattle.
And what if this man is my destiny and I never meet him?
It's about showing off what we have from a location perspective, but also how do we keep people working and bring money to the economy.
Well, the official launch of Commercialize Seattle is next Wednesday night at Spitfire in Belltown. The mayor, industry leaders, even ad agencies are all expected to attend. Reporting live tonight in Seattle, I'm Lindsay Cohen, KOMO 4 News.
I totally got my hair cut after that. So as we think about growing the creative industry and what opportunities do we have, you know, we always talk about Hollywood, we always talk about New York, and you know what? We started to think differently. And so in November, we had the great pleasure to be part of the governor's trade mission to China. So Governor Inslee, who is a big supporter of what we do and understands what we do, we were part of this mission where he had over 100 executives and leaders from the state of Washington going over to China to figure out, like, how do we work together? What is the bridge between the two? And why you would think, like, what do we have to do with China? We, Washington Filmworks, witnessed by Governor Inslee, signed a memorandum of understanding with DMG Entertainment. DMG Entertainment is one of the biggest production and distribution companies in China who funded little projects called Iron Man 3. To work together to figure out how we bring more production here. How do we bring more production here? How do we facilitate investment in our community in a long-term strategic way? So whether that looks like a film fund or whether that looks like investment in bricks and mortar, these are all conversations that are an outgrowth of this particular trade mission and a conversation that Governor Inslee led on our behalf. And so also as part of that memorandum of understanding is a long-term view of not just what is today, but what is 5 years, what is 10 years down the line. In addition to the 7 years I've been doing this position and this job, we have never gotten the national attention that we did for this particular endeavor. We signed the memorandum of understanding, and the next day we were in Variety, we were in Deadline Hollywood, we were in the Hollywood Reporter. The message was not only are we doing great things here, but we are thinking differently. We are doing things differently, and you should pay attention. So I feel great about that. It will continue to unfold about the, throughout the next year, but we're super proud of the work from, the governor's office to the board of directors to, what will eventually happen in our community. We're excited about it, and that's one thing that we're doing to grow the community. I just need to, where's Regan? Regan, thanks for all the photos. I don't know if he's here, but we stole all these photos that he took, and they're lovely. So needs assessment is a super big, bureaucratic, not really fun phrase. But we at Washington Filmworks, as we think about, we think about today, but like I said, we think about 5 years and 10 years from now, and how do we keep you all here and working? We are finding some funding right now with a committee of our community to do what we call a needs assessment, which is really about what do we have, what do we don't have, how do we capitalize on what we do have to make something happen. So right now we're in the middle of, and this is what we're planning on doing next year, how do we, there's a lot, things are changing, right? There are trends in the industry that we in Washington State are uniquely positioned to capitalize on, in part because of all our technology resources, right? How do we get technology and storytellers together to create opportunity, right? How do we get, what we know from our first annual job survey, and who took that? Who took that survey? Love Lacey, love it. Because it's coming back. How do we keep our grips, our gaffers, our ACs, our extra, how do we keep you working? Everyone creates their careers in this very diverse, interesting way. We're not just filmmakers, we're musicians, we work in the video game industry, we work in all of these places. So this needs assessment, while very vague in this iteration, is what do we have? How do we position ourselves to Hollywood, to New York, to the international market, so that we bring more work here? So as we come into 2014, we have a super talented group of people from our industry working on that. We're finding some funding for it right now, and you'll see that unfold over the next year. So a lot of people ask me all the time, how do we help? It's a partnership, obviously. You know, as so many people have heard me say again and again and again, we believe the way that we approach our work is we work for you. But at the end of the day, we need your help. And so there's a couple things at the end of this presentation I'd love for you to help us with to help you. One is, in Olympia, I think that there is a misconception that the only work happening in the state is the incentive stuff, because we're always down there talking about incentive stuff. What we learned last year when we did our first annual report was that it's like that much of what's going on. But we don't know what's going on unless you tell us. How do you tell us, right? Everyone has my email address. I think everyone has my cell phone. Email us. We don't need numbers specifically. We just want to know what, when, where, because we want to tell the story that is much bigger than just the incentive program, because that is showing how important our industry is to the greater economy, right? And that's how we get more money in the fund, because who doesn't want more money in the fund? So, secondly, we're doing a job survey. Lacey Levitt apparently is the only one in the room who took the survey. Douglas Horn took the survey. I will call Jacobs took. I could call you out. By the way, there's less than 10 people. Less than 10 people in the room. So 2 things. We learned last year from the vendors in the room that they wanted a survey too. So guess what? Give, give, give. We have a vendor survey coming out next year. So if you're a business owner and you employ people, we want you to take that. If you're a crew member, a cast member, someone who does independent contracting, I don't care. We don't care. We're going to ask you uncomfortable, awful questions. How much do you make? Are you an independent contractor? Do you have health insurance? We need that to work on your behalf. So please take the survey. You're going to get it when you get your W-4s, 2s, what do you call it? W-2s. The whole slogan is like WF, W2, right? It's going to come out in January. Please take the time, 5 minutes of your time. Last year we had close to 600 people, right? That's a fraction of the people that we need. So, and then finally, a lot of what we do on your behalf is like, look at what's happening in the world, because you're all working on projects. We look out into the world. It's my job, our job. And we think about what's happening out there, how do we bring it home? We're investing a tremendous amount of time in our blog, thank you, Jesse, talking about things that are happening nationally that you as business people, you can be creative people, you can be creative entrepreneurs, but at the end of the day, it's you have to understand the business. You as business people need to know to succeed. So it's talking about national trends, it's talking about things that are happening in our community, and bringing it right down to you. We're investing a tremendous amount of time, energy, and effort on that platform. No pressure, Jesse. Please sign up for it. Please sign up for our newsletter, because that's how we communicate with you, and that's how we want to communicate. So anyway, I think that is the end. There's us. So again, I'm going to stick around. Thank you for coming out. I'm going to stick around, and thank you.